afternoon. We're here at Ben Botha Landscapers and we're at his nursery here, which is just down in the valley here at the Shongweni off-ramp to the M13. And this is not far from the Legacy Centre, Garden Centre and our bonsai nursery. So as you can see, it's beautiful here on the little bit of a dam here, and Ben's got his nursery with his laid out here with aloes. And today we're going to specifically talk about aloes, succulents, diseases, pest control. And for those of you like me who's new to aloes and the diseases, we're going to specifically look at what they look like, what do we mix up, what controls we have in place, and what are the products we use to control these diseases and what we spray onto them, and also what is the long-term solutions to some of these diseases. So Ben, thanks for joining us and talking about some of the pesticides and herbicides and that we deal with aloes. Just talking about your passion for aloes, just take us back a bit. I know you've got a lot of aloes at home and that. What started you on aloes?
I was a gardener from a very young age and just developed a love for succulents. And when we moved to Durban 15 years ago, I could actually really go out full out collecting them because of our climate that allows it. Aloes are susceptible to frost and cold, very cold or weather conditions. So it was difficult for me in the Free State to grow many different species. So in Durban, you know, you can plant things upside down here and they grow very well. So that's where it really started 15 years ago.
Now, did you move from the Free State to Durban because of the succulents or because of golf?
Yeah, my wife would say both, but no, I was actually transferred. I was still working in the corporate, and so I was transferred, and here I started my own business as a landscaper and started my nursery where I grow many different succulents from all over the country, Africa, Madagascar. That's where they're from. That's where they grow naturally.
I think last time I was there, I walked around and you told me you got 400 and something species.
Yes, I think my private collection is probably over 400 species, and it's a labor of love, because you really have to work very hard to keep those plants happy. They come from extreme areas with extreme conditions, very dry, often plants from Saudi Arabia, from Oman, from Yemen. So you've got to do extra work to keep those happy. The ones from the Western Cape, Northern Cape, they don't grow well here, so we don't do those often. And
you've got a lot of people visiting your home to come and see your collection.
Yes, I love to show it to people. You know, even through my business, I promote water-wise gardening. I think it's the way to go for the future. Also bringing nature back into your garden through planting wisely. But it's a concentration of planting plants together that have the same requirements. You know, if you're doing a succulent garden, you'd find that most of those would be loving sun, they would love the drainage, and they grow well together. People often think that we're trying to recreate a desert scene, which is not necessarily
Correct.
True. You know, we have many succulents and aloes that grow locally. And those are the ones that I try and grow at my nursery mostly, the local ones.
How have the aloes and the succulents done now with the drought conditions we've gone through?
The drought conditions, obviously, you don't have any problems there. The aloes are extremely hardy. You'll find that they will discolor maybe. You know, they will get that lovely red, orangey color about them, which is a good thing. Aloes, succulents need a resting time or a purging time, especially in winter when it's drier. So you don't go around watering your aloes, you know, at times when it gets drier. It's actually a very good thing.
Other than taking my money in the golf course and teaching us a little bit about aloes, I mean, one of the things that happens in the garden shop a lot, and I mean, obviously I do bonsais and you do aloes, but I think the questions that come about when it comes to disease control and pest control on aloes, they're the same on any plants, and people get very disturbed when they spend huge amounts of money on their gardens and then they find they've got pests. So aloes are no different, and I think we just want to run through a couple of the diseases that you find with aloes. So I want to pick up a couple of samples here, and then if you can just run through what you do when it comes to your expertise on treating these diseases. So let's run through a couple of things. I've got a couple of samples here. I'm going to just pick up here. So what have we got here?
This is a species called Aloe rupestris, and unfortunately it's got, you see these small little white insects all over the leaf. That's called white scale disease. It's something which will spread in your garden and go to your other aloes as well, and will eventually kill your plant. This is a very good example of white scale disease. It's a small insect that will group on the leaf itself, and eventually it will cover the whole plant. It becomes completely white. If you drive on the highway between Hillcrest and Maritzburg, you see some of the aloe ferox that it's absolutely snow white with this white scale disease. If you squash it or you squeeze it like this, you see it's a reddish color. It means it's still very much alive. Once you've sprayed it and you do what I've just done there, it just falls off. It dries out, and that way you can see if it's dead or not. As we've said, Kemprin with a small mixture of volcano, the wetting agent, that's the way to go to treat that.
We've got a problem here with this aloe, and I just want to ask you, there's a couple of problems on this aloe. Just give us an indication of what's gone wrong here and just give us some solutions.
Clynt, this is a very common problem around the Durban area, where we have a certain beetle called a snout beetle that finds a home inside the crown of the aloe, and eventually it will actually bury into the crown, lay eggs, and then the larvae would hollow out the stem. So it can become a severe problem in your garden, the so-called snout beetle, and the only way to solve that is to spray insecticides.
Right.
And something like Kemprin is very, very useful for that. And it's not as if you be spraying insecticides every day, all day long. Once you've sprayed it and you see that the snout beetle is not there anymore, that will be it. You do look for signs, however, on your plant. When you see these black marks, black round spots, as you can see on this leaf here in particular, I will break a leaf off so I can show you closer.
Right.
You see there's like a small black spot with a little hole in the center. That is typical of snout beetles. And I'm actually holding one in my hand here,
right,
which I've crushed now, unfortunately, so you can't see it very well. They do grow a bit bigger than that. And when a plant is heavily infested like this, it actually becomes a huge problem. You'll have a whole horde of them in there doing their thing.
Yeah. What have we got over here?
This is a very good example of what a badly infested aloe vera looks like. Now, the reason why I've brought in aloe vera to show you is aloe vera is extremely susceptible to this disease called yellow rust. It's also known as ring rust or aloe rust. And it makes these round, you can see there, makes these round rings with a yellow crust. And in fact, there's a very good example there, if I can show the camera. There's the actual ring. This is a really, really bad disease to have in your garden. It's a fungus, so you have to treat it with a fungicide. Now, what I generally do is I remove all the leaves that are infected. Even if you cut it very, very hard, you cut it back, remove all the disease that you can see, and then you start spraying with fungicides. You must try and use more than one product. Alternate your products, and I spray my aloe garden once every 6 weeks, and I alternate products. You've got some very good products. For instance, you have Supremo, which is a nice product to use. You've got Odeon, which is a nice product. But I've experimented with quite a number of products. So to alternate your products is definitely important. The fungus will build up an immunity to one product, so it become ineffective if you use it over and over. The other thing about a fungus also, it spreads. It spreads like wildfire, and it will go to all your plants around your garden. Often it's triggered by bad conditions, planting conditions, too much shade. That is a problem. Overwatering, another severe problem, especially in the case of aloe vera. Aloe vera is an Arabian species, and it doesn't like a lot of water. best to be grown in a pot and be
In
grown
full sunshine.
quite dry, yes.
Okay.
Just an interesting fact on aloe vera, which not many people might know, is it's never actually been found in habitat. It's never actually been, they don't know where it originates from. Aloe vera.
Unknown.
Unknown, they don't know where it comes from.
Now, is this the product they use in the aloe vera, as in the medicinal aloe vera?
Yes, yeah, this is the actual plant. This is the actual plant. You'll find that it's got a huge medicinal use in many different applications, and medicines. I got stung by wasps in my other nursery the one day, and I was covered. I had stings all over my body, and my staff, we just grabbed some pieces of aloe vera, broke the leaves off, and I painted it all over my body where these wasp stings were. Within 5 minutes, I didn't have a problem. Within 5 minutes.
Fantastic.
It's very useful.
Careful, we're dealing with spiky plants here, but yeah, we have some other diseases. Now, I think you
Yeah.
call this cancer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, this is maybe not such a good example, but it's a very early stage of aloe cancer. Aloe cancer is a microscopic mite which actually gets inside the cells of the plant, and it irritates the cell, and it develops this abnormal growth, almost like a gall, and they can grow much bigger than this. You could have big chunks of this gall hanging off the plant. Also a major problem in a garden, because aloe cancer, or that mite, can be transferred by the wind. It's wind driven, and it moves to other plants, other aloes. It's not something which is harmful to human beings, or it won't be harmful to any other plant species. It's specific to aloes. It's ugly looking, and it can actually kill the plant as well. Now, the way to get rid of it, there are probably a number of ways and a number of chemicals that you can use, but what I often do is to remove the gall surgically. You cut it away as deep as you can, try and get rid of all of that, and then you paint neat Kemprin or an insecticide on that wound. Besides painting the insecticide onto the open wound, you spray a little bit of JS fluid just around the base of your plant.
To completely kill it.
Well, the JS fluid doesn't kill it necessarily, but that very strong smell, the microscopic mite, or the cancer mite, does not
stays away.
the odor or that strong smell. So there's something which you can use aloe cancer. Cut it away and paint neat insecticide, in this case Kemprin, onto that, and that should sort it out for you. If it's really badly infected, and if it's not a plant that you have a great attachment to, or
Destroy it.
it's better to destroy it rather than get a fresh one.
So Ben, thanks for all the information. We've obviously got we've heard that Kemprin is a great product mixed with some volcano wetting agent, and we've got all these products in the garden centre. But I think the big thing that we must learn out of this is that most plants, and this goes for succulents as well, planted in the right climate, in the right place, right sun, right shade, will give you lots of joy. And I think often people plant them in the wrong place, and then they're susceptible to diseases like anything. So I think this is something that you promote heavily in your plants.
Absolutely. Succulents in general, if they are planted in full sun with good drainage and in good soil, will give you great joy and not be that susceptible to disease. Unfortunately, people for many years have thought that aloes in particular will grow better in poor soils, because you often see them out in the veld growing on rocks and things. You think, but there's hardly any nutrition. That is not true. Aloes like good soil. You work a lot of compost into your soil. They don't necessarily like huge amounts of nitrogen, because that leads to fast growth, and your plants will get weaker that way. But a bit of feeding, absolutely, a bit of feeding, 515 fertilizer, and compost, and obviously with good drainage and in full sun. There are a number of succulents that actually prefer the shade, so it's a good idea to do a little bit of research on your plant species to see which aspect it likes. whether it wants a bit more shade, whether it wants this, or whether it wants a plant that is planted correctly in the right place will not be disease prone, and I think this is what we're saying. I've just noticed another product on the table here, the liquid fertilizers. You've got nitrosol and you've got Calpac. People often plant succulents in pots, and that's perfect for any of those products for a bit of extra feeding, because you don't have necessarily enough nutrition in your potting soil. So regular feeding with those two products, nitrosol and Calpac, that will definitely help.
Fantastic. So Ben, I follow you in the golf course. I follow you on Facebook, and I've seen a lot of happy clients from your landscaping business, and some very happy gardens out there. So thanks very much, and I'm sure we'll do some more talking. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.